As we discovered previously, global illumination and dynamic objects just don't go together. In this clip, we're going to approach that problem and see how we can fix it. So first I'm going to select my directional light, so we get a little bit more lighting in our scene. There we go. So now we have some color bleed from the red wall here. We have some color bleed over on the green side as well, but we could also see the glow of our yellow cylinder. So now let's go ahead and add a dynamic object to our scene. And the most common object that we're going to be dealing with is our player character. I'm going to navigate to the Heroes folder, and I'm going to drag the Dwarf Hero prefab right into our Cornell box. Let's zoom in on him. And here we go. At first glance, it seems like he's matching up pretty well with the lighting in our scene. However, we're not getting any reflected lighting on him at all. This could be really obviously seen if I take him and move him over to the area where our glowing object is. And we could see that indeed he's not receiving any of that yellow glow at all, even though we could see that the glow on the floor is extending to where he is. So he should be receiving some of this color, but he just simply isn't. And again, that's because he's not set to static, and he can't be because he's going to be running around in our game. The solution to this is something called light probes. They're little objects that are going to sample the surrounding lighting of a static scene and create kind of a simulated lighting scenario for our dynamic objects. It's not going to be 100% accurate, but it's going to be close enough that the player isn't really going to notice much of a difference. So to create these light probes, we're going to go to Game Object, Light, and we're going to choose Light Probe Group. This is going to add this cube to our scene. Let me pull it forward a little bit, and you can see that our lighting is already starting to change. Go. And a light probe group is comprised of 8 probes. These are the probes right here, these little currently yellow spheres, and these magenta kind of lines. So what these lines are is they're kind of boundaries for sectors that are going to be calculated for our dynamic objects to move through. So this probe right here is going to sample some lighting, this one here as well, and this one here as well, and they're going to take that lighting information and put it all in this kind of triangular area here. This is going to become immediately more obvious once we have this all set up. We can move these probes around individually or as groups. To start, we want to get this to the approximate size of our scene. So I'm going to go into the top view by clicking on the little Y on our widget here. And I'm going to get out of perspective mode by clicking on the center box. And I've got these 4 light probes already selected, so I'm going to start with them. I'm going to pull these to the front of our Cornell box. I'm going to just drag select the back 4. I'm going to drag them all the way to the very back of our scene. Then select the sides and do the same. Finally, the last side. Now we want to do this for the sides as well. And I'm just kind of estimating here. We don't want these probes to end up embedded in the walls, but we'll adjust that once we get back to 3D mode. There we go, that looks good. Let's go into 3D. And here we are, that's approximately right. Looks like I need to get these bottom probes a little bit out of the ground. And these top ones a little bit out of the ceiling. There we go. So this is the standard setup for light probes. We want it to encompass the environment that's being lit, but the way that we have it set up now is not quite ideal, and I want to show you why. I'm going to zoom into the character here. We could see that his lighting has changed a little bit. If I toggle this light probe group off, let me frame him a little bit. We could see there that he has much brighter kind of flat lighting as opposed to when the light probe group is on. Now notice that this is happening automatically, by the way. There's nothing that you need to do to dynamic objects. As soon as light probes are introduced, they're going to start contributing to any dynamic object in the scene. The lighting is closer to accurate, but we're still not receiving any information really from our glowing object right here. And the reason for this is because each individual light probe sector, like this triangle right here, has too much information to process to get really detailed. The rule with light probes is that you want to have more light probes around interesting dynamic lighting areas and less light probes around the areas that the player will either not frequent very often or doesn't have dynamic lighting changes. Something like this corner here is a really appropriate place to not put too many light probes, but we definitely want more around this level. We also want a more even distribution of light probes for the general height of things. Let's do another pass on this light probe group to create a more representative view of our global illumination. I'm going to select these top probes here, and I'm going to do this in perspective view this time. And we can see over here on the inspector that we have the option to delete, add an individual probe, or duplicate the selected probes. So I'm going to choose duplicate selected. And I'm going to drag these down to kind of the lower middle portion of our scene. Now our lighting scenario has already changed again, which is great. Let's just continue on, and then we'll focus in especially on this glowing area. I'm going to zoom out a bit and select these front guys and duplicate. Pull these back to around the middle point. That looks good. And because our player character is a lot shorter than the rest of the objects in our scene, let's create some more lighting information kind of down on his level. So I'm selecting that center group, choosing duplicate, and dragging down. There we go. So now he's starting to get some more lighting information. We can see that he's starting to get a yellow hue here. But now let's focus in on the area around our glowing object. So we happen to have a couple of probes here already. I'm going to select these two. There we go. And I'm going to duplicate these. Pull them out over here. I'm going to select the previous two. And I'm going to duplicate them. Kind of extend these out within this specific glowing area. And that looks pretty good. I'm actually going to select these top guys and just add one last section kind of up above the head of our player character. So the idea being here that this would be an important object that he would be visiting a lot, and the glow is an important element as well. Alright, so now I'm going to select my dwarf hero, and I'm actually going to turn off the glow so we could see things a little bit more effectively. You could do that by going to Gizmos and unchecking Selection Outline. So now we could really start taking a look at the lighting scenario on our character. I'm going to pull him back and put him right behind this light here. And we could see that he's got a lot of yellow lighting information showing up. We could see it here on his arm and especially on his forehead. And as we drag him away, that lighting information changes. So it looks exactly like he's a static object, so we could see different lighting scenarios right here. But he's still 100% dynamic. We could see his static options aren't ticked, and it's all because of our light probe group. In our next clip, we're going to make things look even better by applying reflection.